Okay, good evening, everybody, and this is the Landmarks and Historic Districts Board meeting for September 20th, Friday, September 21st, 2021. We have a number of guests associated with our applications, um, and Kitty, you are associated with the application for 240 Halsey Lane,
260 Halsey Lane.
260 Halsey Lane.
And
And-
Kathleen McClelland is also on, and she is associated with that. She's the homeowner.
Okay, fine. Um, with respect to that, what we'll try to do is take that first in order to allow our guests to depart at an early time. If there's no objection, we will amend the agenda in that fashion. Okay, 240 Halsey Lane is an application for demolition. We had an application last year, I believe, for an addition. 2018 for an addition to the structure on the property. Can you explain a little bit about what is going on?
Of course. When I started working with Kathleen and her husband in 2018, we realized very early on that a C of O had never been issued for the house on this property. So I filed a pre-existing CO application, and it got bounced back because there had been work done without the benefit of a building permit. And so in order to rectify that and file a building permit for work done, one of the requirements was to have the approval of your board for work that was already in place. So that was your board approved work that was already in place. It was not for work that was being proposed to be done and was not done.
No. Okay, and the application for demolition is for a house. I've gotten the details of the report that I did on it. I think I did the report. But Martha, did you get a chance to review this? And
I did. I forwarded on your report because it was so recent. I didn't do it again. I spoke to Kitty and went to see the house, which is charming and lovely and very higgledy-piggledy, as they say. And I'll let you speak for yourselves, but it's an odd lot, and it would be hard to have a house that was contemporary in size. Now, it just ceiling heights. There was a million different angles to live in it. If you were a family, and Kathleen, you'll explain, it would be difficult. I have a house like that. There's no ceilings that are 5.5 feet. Sometimes everything's on an angle. So do you want to talk about why you want to tear it down? I mean, it's absolutely charming. I've sent you all pictures that I took today, that I took when I was there. And I'll let you carry forward with what you want to do.
If I could speak first, and then perhaps Kathleen could follow. Kathleen, when we started this process in 2018, which we picked up and then put down for a while and revisited it again more recently, our original intent was to expand and renovate the existing house. This house sits in the middle of a family compound. Kathleen was raised in the house just north of the property Ed is pointing to now. Her mother was born and raised in the house just south or to the bottom of the property that that's 260, and to the left, which would be the west, is where her sister currently lives and has lived for most all of her adult life. Kathleen is a local Bridgehampton resident. Her family name is Griffin. Her mother was a Hildreth, and she's lived here most of her life and intends to continue to live here for the rest of her life. So this isn't a property that that was purchased with the intent to flip or change or anything along those lines. I think that history is important. And I know from my conversations with Kathleen and her husband that they have not come to this decision easily. So we started looking at options to expand the dwelling. The dwelling currently has a very small second floor. It's really a half a story. Much of it has quite restricted headroom. And every iteration and design schematic we came up with, we were losing most of the existing cottage in order to get the additional spaces and headroom that they were looking for in the house. And we, after working on it for a considerable length of time, we sort of put it down for a while, and COVID happened, and we picked it up again about 6 months ago. And Kat said, you know, Kitty, I've got to do something. We're bursting at the seams here. And what we've come to collectively is that what seems to work best is to build a new house in this location. And I've designed it's a half-acre lot. I've designed a 3,000 square foot house, 2-story house that requires no variances. It's a narrow lot, narrow and deep. So the pyramid setback deeply impacts anything we do here. And that gives you a sense of the history of this project prior to you seeing it here this evening.
Okay, so I will thank you for having us tonight. And I just wanted to really join Kitty to reiterate, you know, what a difficult decision this has been for our family. And this is our home. We've lived here. My husband and I have lived here since 2005. When we first lived here, it was just the two of us. And we were not full-time residents. We were wintering in Florida at that time for my husband's work as a chef. And so then we now have, subsequently, I have a 14-year-old and a 10-year-old. And as Kitty described, it's just, this house was actually built by my great-grandparents, but never intended to be a house to raise a family. They raised their family in the homestead to the south, which is 240 Halsey Lane. And then when my grandfather was married and all the other children were out of the house, they gave that home to them. And they built 260 Halsey Lane, this small cottage for them to live out their retirement years. It was, and then subsequently, their daughter retired and moved home to take care of them. My great-grandparents were deceased before I was born. And then just one retired woman lived out her days in this house. So I spent a good part of my childhood in this house. And if there were a way that we could make this right for our family, that was our intention. But some of the major points are really the second floor, and then the basement has very low ceilings. We have really no use other than storage, and several problems with the basement as it currently exists, but just ceiling heights in the basement would be too low for us ever to make that usable space as it is now. And the way that this home is set up, as was described, it's a lot of small rooms. There's a very tiny central staircase, which is not even, I believe, to code today, what it would be to code today. And a central fireplace. It makes maneuvering anything around, as Kitty described, it really loses all the original character. So then when we kind of reassessed building new, it was very important to us to build something that was in character with the surrounding homes. It's really just kind of more of a farmhouse style, what we're building. It's certainly, to align with the property, which has been and will continue to be in my family for any of the foreseeable future, and then will of course be handed down to my children. So this is a big decision for us, but we need to, having lived here year round, full time with a family, we've just gotten to the point where we need to do something to make it livable for our family.
Okay, well, thanks for that information. That's certainly informative in terms of the background for the house. Comments from or questions from any of the board members with respect to the character of the house? And
excuse me, Ed, when you did the report, it's my understanding that it was built in 1929. You determined approximately thereof. That was the
Yes, the sign that says.
There by 1930, so.
Yeah. But
and it's not in AKRF or any of the historic resources surveys.
It's not that I know of. It's not an AKRF. I would have noted in the report originally.
Right, that's what I'm just sort of rehashing what I reread and what I understood.
Right.
Right.
So.
Because those were things that would be a concern to me if it had been listed.
Well, I myself, I understand the need, certainly. The question of the house is, the house was not built of distinctive architecture, certainly. It is kind of a product of a family history in the community. And every house that is a product of a family history testifies, that family's presence. That is kind of, I think, the one historical character, if you will, or quality to the place. But I also understand the need that houses basically change over time because of that. But Martha, do you want to offer comments on this?
Well, I think the house is absolutely charming, and I think I couldn't find any place when I looked in a cursory way that it was important. You didn't note that it was important. It's 1930. It's charming. It is not a family house. I think the description was very apt, and I think it's very sad, but there is a family compound there, and they all, it's the Hildreth family. They're staying there. So as sad as I am, I haven't got anything factual, but yes, well, what can I say? People have to live in a house, don't they? I think you said it well. It's a living, breathing thing, and it has to evolve.
Oh.
It's not historically significant, except to the family.
Okay. Any comments from anyone else? Well, I would, recommend that in light of the things that we've been presented with, and that we not object to the application for demolition. And if that's okay with the other members of the board, we can file a response on that basis. Is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So, Kathleen, thank you for the information. That's actually a little bit more than I knew before you started, and glad to have your presence here to explain things. It helps us a lot in making our comments and responses to the building department. So
Thank you very much for your time tonight, and thank you for the time that you give to our community, because you do, perform a very important service. So thank you all.
Thank you.
okay, thanks. All right, and thanks, Kitty. Right.
Thank you all.
Good night. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night.
Okay. We will proceed to the other items on the agenda. The first of which would be in the order that we have them there. The first would be the acceptance of the August 17th minutes, which Stephanie sent out, and we all received. Is there a motion to accept? We have a motion from Susan, and I'll second it. Any further consideration of the minutes to be had? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving them, say aye. Raise your hand, please.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. You're all well trained. Okay, the minutes are approved. The first application on the agenda is for 1060 Noyak Road, North Sea. And Susan previously sent out an older report or a review on it from some time back. But this is basically an application to demo some accessory barns on the property.
It's one accessory structure, just
Yeah.
one.
And it's not a barn at all.
Well, accessory
Flat roof.
structure, yes.
Barn conjures up too much pleasant. It's right around the corner from my house.
Okay. And let's see if we can take a look at this here. Let me get this out here. And see if I can bring it up here. Okay, let me get the zoom back. This is the King Farm. Do you see it?
Yes.
Yep,
Yes,
Okay. All right.
that's it.
yep, that's it.
Right here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Um, Susan, well, I have only seen it from a distance. I've not done anything, but it did not seem to be a significant building or structure on the farm. But I'll defer to other comments as well from Jeff, if you're familiar with it.
It's not any kind of architectural style. It's just a flat roofed building that served a very utilitarian purpose. And it's always been run down since I've lived here 14 years. So I've never seen anything happen in there either. It's just been derelict.
Let's see if I get a.
My concern is, but I defer also to Jeff that has seen it, and Ed, both of you live closer, is that was one of the buildings that was included in AKRF as part of the scenic. They had the picture
Actually,
of that, and then part of the house. But it's the one with it had the little flower boxes. It looks like it's greatly deteriorated since
yeah,
2014. It
Looking at
doesn't
the
look the
back
same
of
as
it.
it did in
Yeah.
that picture.
there's a
Or
greenhouse
even
attached.
when I was there in 2015, the pictures looked different. So I understand that it's deteriorated. I believe that it's deteriorated more. But I was just concerned because it seemed to be like a focal point that you see from the road.
It just so everybody understands, this building is going to be replaced with another, a kitchen building that's going to be functional, and it's going to be used as part of the farm stand.
And this is a farm. So
Yeah.
I understand that given the amount of space people have, that they may not have, they can't keep they would prefer not to keep a building that doesn't have a use, and they are going to replace it with something functional that they can use. So that would be the trade-off with
Yeah, it's a big.
using something quaintish.
I see it as sort of a spooky building with plants growing all over it, and out of it and through it.
And I haven't seen it recently, so I defer.
And it has this opening to a space below that. You could have a Halloween party there. It's just, I don't know. To me, it's not integral to anything about this farm.
Yes, I don't see any, as you say, Jeff, any barn aesthetic certainly to it. And it, recalls to me on both the farm on farms that I grew up on, that there were always kind of very used shack-like buildings as either storage or for minor functions on the farm that had very often were run down and basically were ready to be used to the last by very practical farmers and then replaced when they no longer could function. But as I say, I don't see any particular significance to this structure, and myself, I see no reason to object to its demolition.
I don't see any reason to either.
No. So if that's any other comments to be offered from the board members?
No, no objection.
Okay. All right. So with that, we will make a note on that. Okay. Let's see if I can get rid of The next application is 142A, Newtown Road, a demolition application. We had previously had a visit on this at a earlier time, or on a neighboring property at an earlier time. Let me get the application up here. This application is for a house that adjoins another property that the owners seek to merge. They have demolished the original 142C Newtown Road, and now they are asking for this to be demolished. If I can bring up the, see if I can bring up the new share here. Bring up the overhead from the e-portal. Okay, so this is the location of that house. Do you see it?
Yep.
I'm showing it? Okay, fine. This is the house that is 142C, and this is 142A, a one-story, circa 1957 or so, maybe, house. I saw it, I think, on the aerial for 1967, but not before that. So it is not particularly a modern, I mean, an older structure, but one of more modern nature. And that certainly is shown by the pictures of the house that were provided to us. I see no reason to object to its demolition.
No.
Any comments from others on this?
No.
Oh,
Okay. So,
I'm just assumed that it was a courtesy that they ran it by us because it was associated with the other one.
it might be, I don't know why there was a flag on it. Let's see, was there a flag on it?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I had no idea why this came before us.
Okay. But in any case, we will stop that.
There's no flag on it.
There's no flag on it. Thanks, Dave.
No.
12 Weesuck Avenue, East Quogue. So let me pull the report here, draft. So Bill, you have some analysis for this?
Yes. This house is in the center of a large grouping of homes that are listed as historic resources to Southampton. In the AKRF, it's listed as the 1900, circa 1900 Adam Yost house. And it is also listed in the East Quogue Hamlet Heritage Report as the same date and same name. It shows up on the 1902 and 1916 historic maps as Adam Yost. It's not on any of the earlier maps. I did find a little information on an Adam W. Yost, born in East Moriches in 1874, buried in the Oakwood Cemetery in East Quogue in 1937. His wife, Amy Estelle Carter, and I'll get to Carter a little more in a second, was born in East Quogue in 1881, buried in the same Oakwood Cemetery in East Quogue in 1963. They were married in 1898, so it makes sense that they would have built this house circa 1900. Had one daughter, Emma Yost, born in 1900. As you look at the 1902 map, there are 7 properties surrounding the subject property, all owned by the Carter family, all different initials, GP, GF, LE, Mrs. S. So Carter must have been a pretty popular name in this area in East Quogue. So in the AKRF, the house is green and the front porch has been completely enclosed. Yeah, there you can see it. You know, it looks like somebody took the covered porch and just put a bunch of windows in it. Currently, when you look at the current photos, it has been completely resided in probably a red cedar shingle. It's left natural to weather. The porch has all been restored back to the open covered porch that I would think was original to the house. So it really looks very nice to see the house, the landscaping. It really looks to be in good condition. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get in the house. There were some photos in the application from the owner and from the engineer showing the inside of the house. Everything looked like it was in good condition. There were pictures in the attic. The framing looked good. You could see where the original lath was for the original wood roof. When you look at the footprint of this house compared to the 1902 and 1916 maps, the footprint is very similar. It seems to have had some small additions put on the back, 1-story additions going out towards the rear. You don't really see them from the front. Yeah, here you can see the attic. You know, didn't look like it was in bad condition. The engineer did state that the sizes of the members doesn't meet the charts for current sizes in the New York State Residential Building Code. But oftentimes when you're looking at the new growth material used to make the charts today, the material isn't as strong for the same sizes as it was in, say, 1900, the old growth lumber. A lot of the builders don't care for the old lumber because it's a lot harder, it's a lot denser than the current material. Not good for their saws or their nail guns. So being that it's been here since 1900, it doesn't really seem to have structural problems to the wood frame portion of it. He mentioned some problems, the engineer again mentioned some problems with the cellar. His photos came out as black and white. They're very difficult to see. It would have been nice to get in there. He didn't specifically point out problems with the brick foundation, but did state that it wasn't, again, up to the current code. He did mention that anything that was done to the house would be, how did he term it? Extensive modifications would be required to continue to use the house. But in my mind, extensive modifications would be required to knock it down and build a new house. So lifting the house up and putting a proper foundation underneath it, using the portion of the house in the front where the mass is original, and then adding on to the back of it would be more suitable in my mind than demolishing it completely and building a completely new house. There's also a garage, a detached garage and a shed. The garage has an AYB of 1945, so it's not really part of this application. And the shed looks like it's 10 or 12 years old or something. So again, not part of this application. A lot of the windows that you're seeing in the house appear to be the original 2/2 double hung windows. They've been protected with the triple track storm and screen combinations, which probably, you know, extended their life quite a bit. You can see in some of the photos brick foundation And then there's also block foundation, so you can tell where the additions were added on. On the back of the house where the back door is, it appears like a little one-story addition coming out there. And just to the right of it is the sort of the Bilko door, and to the right of that is a sort of a green, there you go, the greenhouse window. And that again appears to be in a little one-story addition that was added on that side. And it appears that again in the future, they then added perhaps a bathroom on the second floor above that addition. The roof line still reads, and then a little second floor, there you go, little flat roofed sort of section on the second floor pops out above it. And that appears to be the 3 additions that were built onto the rear of the house. Not really visible from the street. Definitely not 2 over 2 windows or anything like that. So they appear to be additions to it. So, but the house really appears to be in good condition, and really I object to the demolition of it in order to construct a new dwelling in its place.
Okay, well, thanks. That's very comprehensive. And again, your pictures provide a good documentation for the character of the house.
Yeah. Yeah, when you're looking at the front, you see the porch, you see the tower, the gable end with the what looks like the original half circle window up there. Everything really is, very much, I'm assuming, as it was when it was new.
You said there were others in the area. I think you listed them.
There's the tower. Yeah, I think, what did Stephanie say? There were 9 other, right on this street were 9 other historic resources.
Yeah.
And then 7 of the different properties around it were previously owned by.
To demolish this house in the context of the other houses would certainly diminish the possibility of a more cohesive historic district.
Mhm.
Wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's also, originally a Yost/Carter home. Carter was one of the people who founded the shipyard on Weesuck Avenue. And all of those Carter homes stem from that family and their shipbuilding enterprise down there.
So you're proposing we object to
Yes.
the demolition
Yes.
in our response to the building department, and I, certainly support that. I think there's good reason to not only that the house appears structurally sound and of some architectural merit, but as well the context of diminishing the possibility of a historic residential district for the neighborhood. So, any comments or any other concerns from board members on this application?
No.
If not, Bill, will you do the honors of responding? Yes. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, 56 East Diana, and we will have, I think, Susan
Yes.
will, let me see if I can get that up here.
And I will preface this by saying I'm not particularly familiar with Hampton Bays in the areas or the East Tiana area. It's the first time I've actually been there in my recent memory, but I did the best I could trying to gather some information. I also contacted Brenda Bernstein from Hampton Bays Historical Society to see if she had any information. I did not hear back from her, so I assume if there was anything in particular about this application or the other 2 that were in Hampton Bays, she would have responded. But This particular house has an AYB of 1890, and which surprises me by looking at it, but it was enlarged in 1971. It also has an attached garage, but the main volume was enlarged in 1971, and it's like 38 by 38, 38 by 39. And it looked, by looking at the one map, it looked, I think it was 1962. It appeared to be, you know, about half that size, and it possibly a gabled roof. But when it said that they, Elmore Jackson did the construction, they enlarged it and put a flat hip roof on it. And if I had known it was large, I would assume that this, it's my feeling, I mean, it's at least from the research, seems to indicate it was once associated with the Corwin boarding house, which would have been the property directly to the north, that this would have been a picnic pavilion. However, the whole shape had changed, and this is, I think, just the shape the builder chose to accommodate the new addition. So during that renovation, from the exterior, I could see nothing historical left. And I did go back to the interior photos, and I didn't mention in the report, and I'll add that there were some of the bullseye, the plinth corner boards were visible on a couple pictures with the windows and the doors. So I would recommend, I mean, when I get to the end, you know, any type of historic materials be recycled or adaptively reused. But I think those are the only things that I could see. And I didn't make an appointment to make an interior site visit. I mean, partly because of COVID. I just hate to imposition anybody. I think this tended to be a rental for a while. And I didn't want to, you know, to make the appointment unless I saw something that I really felt needed to be explored further. But during my research, and, you know, looking at the maps, that it seemed to be associated at one time with the Corwin family, and what had started with Joshua, and then it was Joshua Everett, and then it would have gone to George Egbert. And the first indication I saw that there was a boarding house in use there was around 1881. And that would have been at 52 East Tiana. And I included the 2002 picture. However, it was demolished around 2003, so it's not extant, it's been replaced. But I did include, of course, the maps and the boarding house era, and there was a nice picture in the Images of America, Hampton Bay's book, and it had a picture showing the Corwin house, actually from, it's down on page 4. I think you go down another page. Okay, there you go. That this structure, if it was part of the Corwin property, and it seemed to be quite expansive, according to the maps, there were 4 structures in 1902 and 1960. It would have been on the right up the hill, but my guess it would have been an accessory building, a caretaker's cottage. I don't think it might have been, the family may have lived there when they rented all the rooms, because this got to be quite a busy place. In 1890, they put an addition, 1891, 92, they built an annex, and it seemed to be quite a popular place because they had boats, sailboats that would go down to the ocean, and particularly the Corwin house had bathhouses down there, and there was a dance pavilion. So that was part of, I guess, the experience. There are a number of boarding houses that you can see on the 1902 map that, or that's the 1961, across. There were more on the West Tiana. But on East Tiana, there was one. The Hampton house was directly below the Corwin house. But looking at the photos, it appears to be there. There is something there in 1930. 1962, it's hard to tell. It's a little bit different shape, and that's the best 1931 I could find it. I did look for those other ones, but it seemed to be right on the corner where the Suffolk County ones met, and they weren't very legible to me. But you can see in the 1962, it's a smaller longer, thinner building. So that was before it was expanded. Association, and may have been associated, with the Corwin family. After George and his wife passed away, it apparently went to daughter Alice, because I saw her on some of the nearby surveys. And Gertrude R. Jasper and her family boarded with the Corwins 1918, 1970. I think Gertrude probably was 10 at the time. She was born in 1907, but she and her sister Julie and the family went there. But it appears that Alice and Gertrude continued to be friends, because there was a later article that they visited each other. And I've updated this, plus the typos. I was able to pull up Gertrude's obituary from the New York Times from 2002. And she had a doctorate in French, a master's in library science. She taught at Hunter College, Pratt Institute, along with co-owning a millinery business. It was Toby Cockpock Incorporated. And she died in West Hampton in 2002, survived by a cousin. So I assume at that point is when it transferred out of her family to, she wasn't married, had no children, to the Sullivans, and there were 2 other LLCs. But summing that up, it's been extensively altered. I see no reason to object. Vicky said she drove by it also, I think.
Yes, I did drive by it, and I looked at your report, which is really interesting. I happen to like that area of Hampton Bays, and I thought that, but I was surprised, and I don't know whether it was Gertrude who made all those changes, but unfortunately, there's nothing architecturally redeeming about the structure as it now appears. I mean, it was quite a surprise. It wasn't what I expected to see, and a little disappointing. And I have absolutely no objection to to Susan's recommendation. I agree with it completely. There's no reason to take this.
Excuse me, finish up. It's an interesting piece of property. Actually, the front door faces the water. So when you pull up, driving by it, you see the garage, and you're actually looking at the side of the house.
Right.
And what the owner is proposing is to build a new house. And I retain this one while the other one's being built, either for their use or as a rental. And they posted a bond, which the town accepted, that they will tear it down after the new house is finished. But I can't, except I would add to my recommendation that they adaptively reuse, if there's any historic fabric in the house, to adaptively reuse that, but no objection to its demolition.
Yeah, the location of the door was very unusual. And Susan, was there ever any history that they came by water to get into that house, and that's why they wanted to have the front door facing the water?
Yeah, I guess, right. So yeah, it was, in fact, my husband dropped me off and he was there. And it took a while to figure out. I had to walk all the way down to figure out where the front door, well, I was on the side of the road, but to figure out where the front door was.
Yeah.
Comments from other board members?
No objection.
If not, okay, and consensus is no objection. And Susan, would you
Yes, I'll follow that.
Response? Okay.
Yes.
And again, even though you were not familiar with the territory, it's a very informative presentation.
Thank you. I learned something, needless to say, doing it. So, but I'm sure there's more. If I spent more time on Hampton Bays, you would have a sort of a suitcase full of, warehouse full of knowledge, but that was what I found.
Okay. This is Hampton Bays evening. And the next item on the agenda is 140 West Montauk Highway in Hampton Bays, a proposed demolition for a circa 1830 dwelling, office or former office building. And Let me see if I can bring up the material here for that. This is an application from the town of Southampton. The building, just to give you a picture of this, let me get the share on, screen share. There we go. So you all can see the building.
Yep.
This is the front of it. Estimate, it's an estimate that this is an 1830 building. The AYB on the town tax record is 1935, and I think that is based on the fact that that's an estimate of the time it might have been moved to this location. The location somewhat to the west of where it presently is. This is a picture of the front facade. This is an obvious addition to the building. There are many additions that have been made to this building. Kind of accumulated a lot of uncharacteristic elements for a building that would be of some historic merit. Let me just go around to provide more. This is on the side of the building. This is a door that has been cut in for the second story of the building, where it has been, I believe, at one time used as an apartment before it became possibly the headquarters. That might have been the headquarters area for the Hampton Bays Historical Society before they moved to the Liaison Hat Shop. And this is looking at the rear of the building. This is the stairway to the second floor where the door would have been placed here. But you can see, obviously, this door is not it's not an original door, that this had been an added on element for the house at some point in the past. Looking around, this is the rear of the building, obviously also mutilated in some form. You can see the windows are of different character in the back. There is an addition that has behind this shrubbery that you see here. Also extensive in the back, not to detract, but this is an old parking lot, but it has numerous sinkholes that are occurring. This is only one of them. This is sinking here, but there were two more that are behind the camera that you cannot sink, that had barrel barriers for the property. Ventilation in the roof, you can see there. This is the fourth side of the house. Again, this looks like an uncharacteristic modification of the house. The siding, it looks like it had been redone sometime maybe in the 1950s for the building as well. The application that was submitted had a fair amount of interior pictures there. This is just, I took this picture of the shrubbery on the front. This is by the bay window, just to remind me that the building had been there for a period of time, that the shrubbery had some substantial age to it, and looking at it. The history of this building is a bit obscure for the, let me see, the Hampton Bays. The Hampton Bays Heritage Report provide some background for this building. At the time that the Heritage Report was done, probably more than 10 years ago, I think. The building was being used by the Chamber of Commerce and by the Historical Society. The building was located close to where the Good Ground Cemetery is in Hampton Bays, and moved from a location apparently to make some room for the Good Ground Cemetery. But I was not able to document that with any kind of news article or news material available. At the time the Hampton Bays Heritage Report was done, there was a good deal more integrity and maintenance to the building than there is now. Some of the maintenance have been let down. I was told, or Susan, you extracted a comment from the president of the Hampton Bays Historical Association that when they were vacating the building,
I think, yeah, that someone's foot went down through the stairs.
went through the exit stairs, I guess, from the second floor. And then the town just, as owner, the new owner of the building, decided that it would basically.
Not sure. I have the town's owned it since 2001, and the heritage, I mean, the Hampton Bays profiles 1 and 2 were done in 2005 and 2007. This is probably in the 2005 one, I'm guessing.
This is from the first chapter, 2005.
Yeah. But the town purchased it, at least from that report I gathered, in 2001.
So,
and a few other comments were made about the condition of the building, but I mean, it was just disappointing, I guess I would say.
let me see if I can bring up the demo application here. There were some interior pictures as well as an engineer's assessment made for the picture of the interior with, let's see if I can blow it up a little bit. Okay, bay window describing mold and rot from apparently being sealed up and unused. Damaged floor tiles from some water seepage.
I think they were concerned about asbestos being in the laminate. Oh, the laminate under the floorboards,
Right.
tiles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although it's maybe in the pipe wrap as well.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
pipe wrap
Yeah.
That's
and floor
absolutely.
tiles, floor laminate, and the pipe wrap.
So
I didn't jot it down and I maybe missed it. How long has this been sitting vacant? Is that, anyone recollect that? Like, when did the Chamber of Commerce and
I do not know when that occurred.
It's probably in there. I just missed. I was wondering.
It says formerly occupied, but that's the final report. Yeah. As you can see, there is the obstruction for the stairs on the second floor to prevent people from accessing it as well.
I think the other thing, and it's in that summary at the end at some point, looks like the fire marshal went there, the facility assessment, tectonic engineers did the asbestos, but at the end there was a summary and it said that even though this was intended to be purchased with CPF money, the transfer was never made. I think it's when you go down to the end where it summarizes it. And that, of course, that would, to me, was an important thing to know because I thought it was CPF purchased. I think other people possibly did also. It's more bullet points toward the end that it's mentioned. That I guess after researching, they realized that it never had been purchased by CPF, even though that was the original intention.
Yeah. So I think when you look at all the characteristics of the building, modification of the windows, the additions, the alteration of the structure, the patching on of a bay window over its history, it has been relocated. That it has still a bit of obscurity to its origins as to who might have owned it at the time it was built. But I don't think that there is much to be preserved here.
No.
Like I said, I don't live in Hampton Bays and not as familiar, but of course I've driven by this many times as other people, and I always find it pleasant to look at as I saw it there. It seemed to fit into the streetscape. And not that it will be missed because I think right next door to it's probably a brick building, if I
That's correct, yes.
remember. So it's not that it's gonna be the only one missing, and they don't seem to know exactly what they're going to do with it. So I do find it disappointing. But the other thing I remember reading that a nonprofit was interested in it, to using it for programming for adults with autism who had aged out of the school program. That's what my recollection is. But because of the condition that was a few years ago, they couldn't use it, but they were hoping to. But I personally just think it's a shame that in the last 20 years that it has deteriorated like this. Not that we can go back and do anything about it, but.
Well, there is, I won't raise the issue. There's nothing I think that we can do about it in a particular case, but sometime in the next meeting or two, I think we can discuss this issue about how we might tackle the problem of owners of buildings that have some merit for historical character and identity of the communities, how we might treat them in terms of making response and reports on them, so that we take note of that kind of potential neglect that has taken place. But anyway, we'll save that for another.
Right. That's just my brief comment. And the other thing I wanted to say was interesting with this, it was listed in AKRF is GG Good Ground 48, but it was one of the ones they also put in the table that it lacked integrity or whatever other comments. It was duly listed. Right. One is a historic resource and one is not. So.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll take care of responding on that if there's no further comments to be had on that.
Nope.
Okay. All right, 57 Ponquag Avenue. Let me get that up here. Let me try to clear some of the items here. Diana. Okay. Okay, screen stop. Let me go to okay, this is in Hampton Bays as well. Let me first give you the overview that exists from the above. This is the current location of the house on Ponquag. Just let me zoom out a little bit here. You can see this is Montauk Highway. And actually, we were talking about 140. That was right here, 140 West Montauk Highway. But here we are talking about 57 Ponquag. And it is owned by the Hand Aldridge American Legion Post. This is the post itself with a meeting. This is the house at 57 Ponquag here. In front of it is a kind of a memorial plaza that has been constructed. You can see where the star is. And there is a wall about, I'd say, 4 to 5 feet high with a mulched berm behind it, which obscures much of the house if you're just passing and driving by quickly on Ponquag there. The house is, let me bring up pictures of the house that is there. Okay. So do you see the house now?
Not yet. No.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. So this is the house. As you see, this is the mulch berm behind the wall that I was just mentioning a minute ago. The house, just in terms of its exterior appearance, has some attractive, if you will, eye-catching dimensions to it. The fascia, decorative fascia here, with a little arch, and then with a little arched window originally there. This is obviously not an original window. This is louvered window, as is this one as well. I don't know when those were put in, but I was told that the venting of the house was necessary a few years ago. It had been used as a rental and to get rid of mold and other issues that venting of the upper floor was absolutely necessary. And so the Legion did the modifications to the house on that basis. The some of the other little interesting characteristic is the shingle style that you see, which appear to be original shingles to the construction of the house, which I believe is about 1910, and which was described in the Hampton Bays Heritage Report as approximately 1910 to 1915. This is the south side, where this was an addition put on at some time well after the house was originally built. This is the bay window structure that is present on the first floor of the house. The brick foundation, it sits for the most on a crawl space area, but the brick foundation elements are deteriorating. This is an extension that is on the back of the house as well. Obviously a new door put on, and this probably was not part of the original build of the house back in 1910. This is that interior bay window structure, fairly simple type molding for so the window surrounds. The impression you get inside the house is an economic build, so to speak. This is what probably would have been a living room. This is the opposite wall from the bay windows. On the other side of the sealed off doorway, sometime in the past, the bedroom had been made. This might have been a Hampton Bays party house at some point in the past. The house is uninsulated, was rented only during the summer by the Legion in order to generate revenue for itself and its property. The ceiling showed signs of deterioration. I didn't take any pictures of the ceilings there. This is built-in cabinetry that was original. This is probably the only original interior furnishings. The rest in other rooms appears to have been replaced and modified in some way. This is about an 18-inch wide stairway going up to the second floor. Rather unusual banister and railing for the house, but consistent with the kind of curvy decorative elements you find a little bit on the exterior. Here, just as a kind of this decorative shingle pattern that you see in the shade of this porch, one of the porches. You can see the nature of the pattern there, and then just ordinary perfect shingle. And again, a picture of the exterior of the house. The house has what is called a balloon frame, balloon framing. Bill, do you know what that signifies?
Yes, the studs in the wall go from the top of the foundation all the way to the underside of the roof. They built the wall in one piece, and then basically they hang the floor almost like a ledger off of it. Currently, everything is Western or platform framing. You frame the first floor, the second floor sits on top of it, then the walls above that. Balloon framing is dangerous in that if a fire gets started in the basement, it'll go through the first floor wall, right into the second floor wall, and into the attic without anything stopping it. Structurally, it can be dealt with, but as far as the fire code, you typically have to gut the house to get into the walls so you can put fire stopping in all of those openings.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was told as well. That there are a lot of code issues that the problem is if they tried to restore it, they'd have to bring it up to code, and almost nothing in the house is up to code. It's heavily penetrated, as you can see by the earlier picture, by vines and by the application photos that were presented as well. Legion had been approached by a descendant in Ohio sometime back about dismantling the house and reconstructing it in Ohio, but found the cost prohibitive to the idea, and so the house remained on the property and has not been lived in and utilized for now several years, just sitting vacant. So this is another kind of case that we mentioned. By the way, I talked to somebody who was a carpenter who was familiar and had put in some of the vents in the house, and he made the same point about old wood and new wood that you had mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
And talking about how houses made today may not last as long as some of the houses built 100 years ago, given the character of the wood. The story of this house, other than its construction, has a certain interest, perhaps. Let me just try to bring up the Hampton Bays Heritage Report. Documented the house and this was done 2007. This is the post meeting house, and this is the house next door before it became overgrown by vines and other forms of deterioration. The property was originally belonged in the Fanning families. A Fanning daughter married a William Tiedemann, who was a house painter, a German house painter, German immigrant house painter, and who married a Fanning daughter in 1896 and worked in the community. In 1910, he is living on Ponquag Avenue, which suggests, as another item I'll just make mention of in a minute, suggests that the house was there by 1910. The house had the Henry Muller, who I believe did the Hampton Bays Heritage Report, collected a story that it was Henry Tiedemann who built the house. Now, Henry Tiedemann was William Tiedemann's younger brother by about 4 or 5 years, also from Germany. The descendant of William Tiedemann, who gave the story, said that he came from Germany, leaving his wife and children behind until he found a job. He built a house, and then he received word that his wife and children were dead at the time of World War I. And in 1918, he went out to the barn in back of the house and hung himself in despair. And then the story is the house was left to William Tiedemann, Henry's brother. And Addie had a laundry business. The house does, Henry Tiedemann in 1910 census was living in what was then called Canoe Place Village, not in good ground, independently. He's listed as single, unmarried, and working as a bayman and clam digger at the time. So in kind of just trying to check the story out a little bit, you'll find that, yes, the Fannings and Tiedemans, the Tiedemann married, William Tiedemann married into the Fanning family, a very big family and landowning family in good ground as well. But in 1910, it says William Tiedemann is giving his house a fresh coat of paint. But in 1910, census says he's a painter and a renter of property, not as an owner of property. And Henry is living in Canoe Place as a bayman. 1912, there's a deed from Daniel Fanning to William Tiedemann. I don't know the content of the deed. This is just from an index, but this could be the passage of the house property to William Tiedemann then. And here, Henry Tiedemann, along with others, are busy working on the foundation of Ellis Squire's house, which is being entirely rebuilt, indicating that maybe Henry Tiedemann had some construction experience as well. But here's the story of the suicide. Age 50, committed suicide Monday in his barn behind the house at good ground. He'd been ill, despondent, had brooded over the loss of $200, which was stolen from him recently. He was single, a native of Germany, and lived with his brother William Tiedemann on the Ponquag Road. So there's no mention of wife and daughter as an element of his sad end there. He is buried in Good Ground Cemetery along with the other Tiedemans as well. So that's kind of the historical background that I have for the property. Getting back to the basic question of whether or not the property is, that's not the one I want. So I'll cut out that one there. So my sense is that the building has been chopped up, modified, doesn't have a great historical notoriety or quality to the people who have actually owned the building. My sense is that the appeal of the building is a few very idiosyncratic decorative elements on the exterior, the arch over the windows and the curly fascia elements that kind of would be unusual and to me suggest a European cultural origin for those elements there. But the Legion wants to demo it and replace it with a parking lot, which I suspect will be used to enhance the rental business of its facility for other income opportunities for themselves. So comments?
Well, the one thing, and because I drove by it, of course, I was down there, and I found it architecturally very interesting, like you said, because of all the different work, the fascia and the scrolling. And back there was a quirky little window popping out, and then above the additions. But I think when you mentioned the balloon framing, that of course concerns me. I wouldn't have known that, but I find it bothersome because the way I jotted down the notes that the post has owned it since 1982. And I even look at that picture in 2007, it looked like it was in good condition or decent condition then. And it's a house that somebody wanted to possibly deconstruct and move. So they must have found it somewhat architecturally interesting.
Well, it was a relative who had visited the house when it was in the family during the summer. And that was the sentimental attachment.
Oh, okay, the
to it.
sentimental, thank you,
Yeah.
the sentimental attachment. But those comments being made, yeah, that concerns me. I hate to see it as a loss and to turn into a parking lot, but then with the balloon framing and something being dangerous, that also may preempt architectural elements.
Other comments? Well, if not, then I will send a no objection response, and I might make a side comment about owner responsibility for maintenance of important historic resources.
Yes.
It's demolition by
Yeah.
neglect. That's my opinion.
260 Halsey Lane we've done. So we can turn to the more positive aspect of the agenda, that's construction applications. And the first one there is 34 Hildreth Avenue we dealt with last time, and Stephanie, you put it on the agenda in order to have a matter of record.
Exactly.
For the
Thank you.
agenda. And
I
that's,
didn't ask.
yes.
But thank you.
So that's a very, very constructive element. 1748 Montauk Highway. This is an application to convert a garage into a exercise and workspace for a house that we have visited before for an addition. Last year, I believe it was that we did.
Yeah, June 20, 2020.
So let me get the application up here and screen share. Let's see how we do that. Okay, there we go. So the description of the project and the building itself is this garage, which has a cement block walls. So the AYB on it, I believe, was 1900. That seems to be a little inconsistent. with the dating of this particular building. This is a picture from the back of the house. This is it's kind of on the west side of the house, a little bit located here. Pictures of the interior. As you can see, the walls are there. Basically, it's to convert the interior of the building, remove the doors and partition it for workspace, exercise area, and a storage area for it. Next door to the property is the Long Island Power Authority depot and staging facility. So it's next to an industrial property, which has nothing to the industrial property has nothing to recommend it. Yeah.
Also, I think they're removing those garage doors and changing them to windows.
Yes, they are. Yes, I was getting to
Okay.
looking for if I can get the elevation here. Yes,
There you go.
These would be the area where the garage doors would be currently, and to be filled in and replaced with, it looks like two operating casement style windows.
Yeah.
And a small covered entry on the south side of the building there.
Right.
It's out of sight. It's basically well masked by the roadside landscaping, hidden, as is the house itself, even though it's a very nice looking house. I don't know if any of you have any comments about it.
Yeah. The only thing you could even remotely see from the street will be the south elevation here, where they're going to be putting a little porch and door in.
Well, yeah, it won't be visible from the street because the roadside landscaping is
right.
Vegetation is going to cover that there. So
right, but that's the only one. Even if the landscaping weren't there, that's the only side you could possibly see from the street.
Yeah.
So yeah, the garage doors, you wouldn't see them because that's the east elevation.
Right.
So, I see no reason to object to this.
So, yeah, I see no reason either. I think they'll be leaving their cars outdoors, but that's a choice they make. Any other comments? If not, I'll send a response back to the building department of no objection.
No objection.
Okay, fine. Okay, fire damaged repair construction for 7 right-of-way Sag Harbor. Let me see if I can bring up the application. Yeah.
While you're pulling it up, Ed, I said the only thing I find of interest is I checked AKRF and it is in that list at the end. It's in the table.
Oh, an added of a suggested addition to. Okay. No structural damages, repairs fire damage to upstairs bedroom, study, Right. I did not check on that for the reference, Susan. Thank you for
It
pointing
just
that.
says lacks integrity. I'm not sure whatever the terminology, it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah.
I think it was town provided and AKRF said it lacked whatever integrity.
Yeah, well, these are all the interior pictures, which are of minimal concern at this point in time. So, this is I guess, the damaged building. Huh?
We
Yeah,
don't see it yet.
we don't
but-
see it, Ed.
So, any thoughts on it from anyone?
No objection.
I didn't get a real chance to look at this in any detail, so.
I think he stated specifically no structural changes, no exterior changes, just repairing the upstairs bedroom, study and the downstairs, new roof and repairing the horizontal, new roof and repairing the horizontal siding. So I guess that is a little bit exterior, but nothing. It's repair work versus.
Yeah, it's repairs.
Yeah.
So the rest is all interior because of the fire.
Okay, so without other comment, I would send along a no objection.
No objection.
No
No
objection.
objection.
Okay, certificate of appropriateness for the Nathaniel Rogers House. Is there anything that Vicky would like to update? Okay, all right. So that's a pending event down the road. Referrals, 360 Montauk Highway. That's
That's the former Tuttle mower shop that
right, and
has now had extensive clearing to the rear. I think we have squared away the issue of whether there were any grave sites on the property. It does appear that there are no grave sites on the property. But I think there was still a question that David, you were had something going on in terms of the expanded non-conforming use.
Yeah, they're currently in court. I guess the courts have made some decisions on it. They do have to come back to the planning board for site plan approval for the parking areas and the exterior changes that they've made to the property.
Okay. Will that entail a referral from the planning board to us?
I don't know, because I don't think it's going to affect the building itself. How are they using the old mower shop? What are they doing in there? Do you know?
I don't know what they're doing in there, but it does appear to be part of their overall operations on the property.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's all I know at this point. It seems to be moving along pretty slowly, as
Okay.
things do in court.
okay. Nothing on 149 South Country Road
No.
and 173 David's Lane is quiet. You're muted. Susan, you're muted.
Yes, Lisa wrote me back. Thank you very much. I was muted. Yes, Lisa wrote me back, emailed me back on September 9th and said that appraisal had been completed and they were preparing a letter or paperwork to send to the homeowner regarding the appraisal.
Okay.
So that is, I guess, the next step. And I would say based on that, we might, I mean, if you want to take it off the agenda, and I'll just keep following up since it hasn't gotten lost in the system, it's moving, take it off, and I'll report if and when I hear anything.
That sounds
Okay.
like a good idea. So,
I
I
will
know it
remove.
is, but it hasn't been lost.
okay, good.
It may not go, but
The Bridgehampton Historic District, just with respect to that, the the process of amending the code. If we amend the code, we adopt a new process and a set of standards for historic district formation and properties to be included. So I don't think it makes much sense to start with one process that might be replaced by another process down the road. And I think if there's concern in town hall and some offices that this issue comes up, I think, David, if you just pass along an awareness that this is kind of awaiting the direction the town board wants to take on this, I think that'll just alleviate everybody's concern.
Agree.
Okay, good. Other matters in demolition and construction list of our very diligent bookkeeper, Susan.
I just have two comments. One is that I saw in the paper that the Spionk railroad station was being renovated back into the cafe. Wrote David, CC'd Stephanie and Ed, and they had been doing work on it, but it was reviewed by SHPO. As per David, we weren't, of course, involved. They mentioned the Historical Society, which was, of course, not us, but it's not under our purview, and I think it's about complete. So
It is, and it's beautiful. They really have done a fabulous job of keeping the historic elements in place and, putting in the needed kitchen stuff to run the place much better in terms of sanitation, et cetera, than the prior operation. So I've seen inside, I've seen outside, and it's a thumbs up. It's good.
all right, that's good. That's positive. And I'm working on our list, and I plan to have those updated and get them out because this would be September, the end of the third quarter, believe it or not, and I'll get them out before the next meeting with the details of what we've accomplished in the last 3 months.
That's very good. Thank you, Susan.
Okay.
And the referral applications or pending applications?
Yeah. Just a couple things. One thing, of course, the planning board, it was September 9th. They had going to review Camp Tekawitha regarding the landmark status. So that was September 9th. Besides that, for the planning board, everything else, both the ones that in the late August and September that I did were repeats or no concern. ZBA, the same thing, mostly repeats or no concern, except on September 2nd, there was one for 10 Oak Avenue in Noyak, and there's a 1939 cottage of sorts. We'll probably be getting it for demolition. Not that it's not an AKRF that I know of, but that's just the only one that I saw. And that's it.
Pine Neck,
Okay.
Oak Avenue.
David, did the planning board actually respond on the Camp Tekawitha?
Yes, they did a report. The town board, I guess erroneously thought that we needed a response from Suffolk County Planning Commission. A referral was sent to them, but the code does not require a referral to the Suffolk County Planning Commission. So that as a result, the town board postponed taking action, thinking that we had to wait for Suffolk County. We've straightened that all out. We don't need a response from them. We do have to file with Suffolk County Clerk when we landmark structures, but there's nothing requiring referral to them. So this will be on for the town board to designate it as a landmark, hopefully on September 28th. The resolution is in minute track already, so I don't anticipate any issues with that.
All right. Any sense when there might be a work session scheduled for code change?
On the CLG?
Yeah.
Nope.
Okay. All right. Nothing to report on the landmark maintenance grants for nonprofit organizations, or on the CPF coordination on easements, although we have obviously one potential in the works. We'll see how that proceeds at the opportune moment. And we've just covered the CLG status issue with David's comment. Any other item to be brought before the board for concern? So, Dave, you.
Yeah, I know, Janet, do you know if you did the referral on the landmark application for Laugh-A-Lot? Did that go out?
Yes, it
Okay.
did.
Yeah,
It did.
that's great.
That's likely to be on the agenda for next month.
Yep.
Great. I think they'd appreciate that. They seem anxious to, at this point, after many years of complying with the conditions that the zoning board put on the property.
And also just, there's another application in the works. I don't know when it will be submitted, but I expect that it might be submitted within the next 2 weeks or so, but we'll see how that goes anyway.
So the applicants on Laugh-A-Lot, they wanted to know if they need to submit any significant documentation, or will the research that the board already did when it was recommended for preservation and moving, is all that sufficient for the landmark application?
I suspect it is, but let me check to just verify that things seem to be in place correctly for documentation, so that and some board members, present board members, probably did not receive that material, so that will have to be kind of redistributed. I'll look at what my files have. I think some of it was prepared by Sally Spanberg.
Yes.
And that we'll accumulate what we have, see if there's anything else that's needed, and what is appropriate to the application. We'll see that it's distributed to all the board members.
Mm-hmm. David, I don't know, have you taken a look at the application? Does it have a good collection of current photographs of Laugh-A-Lot in it? Because I know that they were, after they moved it, they were doing some renovation work to it.
Yeah, apparently they've totally renovated the inside. I believe they're done. I don't recall if there were pictures. Janet, do you recall if they had any interior photos?
Not that I saw.
No, okay.
Not interior.
All right. I mean, we are landmarking the exterior, so.
Yeah, and actually, now that you mentioned that, I think they indicated that they really didn't think they needed to submit any interior photos.
Right. I think it's just exterior, but
yeah,
as long as it's well documented on the exterior, because I know they were doing work on it. And that was, I think, work in progress when we last visited the site.
It might have been. I'll check to see on the referral also if you got the zoning board decision, because there was.
It's on there. Yeah, it's in there.
It's in
So
there.
are we landmarking just the building or the whole property?
Well, this came up on the winter cabin.
Yeah.
Right. So I just throw that out as a question. We don't need to answer it, but.
I mean,
But we would
typically
need to have that
landmark the
sorted
entire
out before
property.
we discuss it next month.
Typically, we landmark the property, and the code actually says property. But on the winter cabin, we chose to just landmark the building.
Right.
However, we do have to send a survey of the entire property to the county clerk. So it's important that the town board resolution on the landmarking be very clear that it's just the structure that's being landmarked and not the entire property.
Right.
But as I said, typically when we do landmarking, it's the entire property. And in the landmark determination, we might specify what buildings are important for that landmarking. It could be all of the buildings on the property. It could be one of the buildings, but the entire property is usually landmarked.
Because they had a map with just laugh a lot, I think, highlighted in yellow. So I got the impression that that's what they were possibly focusing on. But
I
we
think
can
that's what
discuss
they
it.
were.
Yeah, we'll probably have to have some discussions with the town attorney because I don't think they wanted to landmark their house,
Oh,
if I remember right.
yep.
So we this will be open for further discussion, I believe.
Okay, as I recall, I don't know if they did accomplish anything, but they had planned to do some renovation and reconstruction for the main house
Yep.
on the property. I think to expand the cellar because some of it was crawl space and insulating it and so on. So,
Yep.
well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it anyway. The only other thing I would bring up here is, are you pleased with meeting via Zoom for the coming
Yes.
months?
Yep.
So I get a lot of head shaking, yes. And given some things I heard, I think it's a very safe course for us to take at this point in time, myself, and hope that this pandemic eventually recedes. But I think for the moment we have to be careful. So with that,
I had just one quick thing, if
okay.
we don't need to discuss it, but I want to know if I went, after the last meeting, I made a list of the 31 landmarks. I just copied them out of, off the list on the website. We're up to 30 and added number 31. And my question is, do you want to pursue something, me putting this list together and doing it maybe in a different format to do site visits? I listed after each one, if there was a COA, it had been, and the year, just a few numbers. Is that something, do we want to make annual site visits and photograph these? Is it something, or we can talk about it next month? I don't want to take time on it, but I could do it in a different format and a checklist kind of thing if we want to keep track of which ones we've looked at.
Could
I
you
don't know.
circulate the lists that you've done?
What was that?
I think that's a great thing. Could you circulate that list that you've done?
Yeah, I can. I'll circulate the list as I have it, and you can decide, Ed, or as a group, whatever. I don't want to push something. I just think that the fall would be a good time to do it. And then if we had an annual period of a couple months that we tried to, even if it's photographing something from the road, if that's all that's important, it doesn't need to be site visits where you go in and have to contact the owner just saying like, this is what it looks like today. Everything looks fine. Ford and Mill, a couple photographs and then once a year. Well, I'll send it along. We can talk about it.
Let me just indicate that should we get to form historic districts with contributing resources in large numbers, rather than the small numbers that we have, that may present a certain challenge.
We may not want to continue it. You're right.
Okay,
But right now, I think it looks like, I looked at it, and some of the ones that are falling through the cracks are probably Hampton Bays. or ones not visible as much from the road. But I think we could take care of them probably without, there are 2 or 3 in Flanders, you know what they are, that very quickly, I think we could take care of most of them and divide up the ones that nobody actually covers. But we can talk about it next month.
Yeah,
Also,
I'll put it on the agenda under the other matters.
Okay.
Yes, continuing discussion.
yeah, and that's it. It's no decisions tonight. That's just, I'll send a list of what I have so far.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, one more thing. I was contacted this afternoon by Eleanor Coble, who had landmarked her home at 121 South Road in West Hampton about 2 years ago, and then she got the facade easement from the CPF, and she wanted to update me that she's having her windows measured. She had applied for the maintenance award, and she's going forward with that, so she just wanted to sort of update me. She's also a local realtor, and she was involved with the sale of 15 Sunswick in West Hampton Beach on the southwest corner of Sunswick and Seafield Lane. The local people sort of know it as the Windmill house, and it has sold, and the people who have purchased it for the property, and they want to get rid of the house, and they're willing to give it away. So if anybody wants to look at it and try and figure out something to do with it, at the moment it's, what's the address again? It's 15 Sunswick. 15 Sunswick in West Hampton Beach.
And if anybody
has
wants detailed information about it, I have a structural condition report put together by Larry Jones, who is doing the work for the Historical Society and our Foster Meeker House, etc. So we have a lot of documentation about it. The folks in the Historical Society are very upset that this structure is probably going to go into a dumpster. It is a real windmill, and it's in great shape.
How do you spell Sunswick?
S-U-N-S.
S-U-N.
Okay.
W-Y-C-K. Yeah, S-U-N-S-W-Y-C-K.
Okay. W. Oops. Go back.
Okay.
I'm trying to bring it up on.
And Eleanor Coble also. Okay. Yeah. Eleanor Coble also has a friend who is interested in landmarking her house and perhaps tapping into the CPF for the facade easement. It's Linda Kerr, and she lives at 16 Dock Road in Remsenburg.
Oh, yeah.
She claims that her house was built in 1930, and it's a Sears home. And she says it's pretty much in its original, its original massing, although it appears when I looked at it that perhaps the front porch had been filled in and enclosed. But it's not in the AKRF, and it's not in the Hamlet Heritage Area report for Remsenburg Spionk. The AYB is 1930, and there's a barn there that's also 1930.
What's the address again, Bill? 13 Dock Road?
16 Dock Road.
16, okay.
Ed, I've got the Sunswick property up if you want me to share my screen.
Yes, sure.
All right.
Can you share it? I'm not sure if you have.
I think I saw the real estate
okay.
ad for this.
Can you see it?
I see it. Yes.
Yes.
See it.
That's it.
Very good.
Wow.
And we have pictures of it while the arms were still on. Wasn't clear that they actually rotated at that point, but we have the arms still on it.
Maybe
They still have the arms?
I don't think so, no. I think they're gone.
No.
maybe the village of
Hmm.
Southampton would be interested in it if they can't get the one on the campus of Stony Brook.
Mhm.
Are you aware of that proposal to move the Windmill structure from Stony Brook campus to the Windmill Lane and the village of Southampton?
Yes.
Yes, a lot of discussion about that. Yes.
Does that potentially involve us?
Well, that's an interesting question since it's currently in the town of unincorporated village. Huh. But it is on state property. I guess it's owned by the state. So I don't know what jurisdiction we would have. Trying to, oh, it's a private road, so it won't. Google doesn't go down private roads. Oh, wait a minute, that's not it. Where is it?
If you want to see
It's
pictures,
the one
I
on the
think if you-
corner.
There.
There we go.
If you
Yeah.
Google the address, I think you pull up the real estate ads and all the photos for it. I remember looking at them. It's really pretty gorgeous.
Mhm.
Not here, but on your own. Pretty gorgeous.
All right.
Eleanor Coble said that the village showed an interest in having the windmill itself, but they didn't want any of the house. And at the moment, I guess all of it is available.
Yes, everything.
Well, the windmill is not a windmill anymore unless you restore it to its windmill status, which means
Yeah,
that you get rid of the house
tower.
component. Yeah.
Stephanie, do you think it
Yeah.
was a water? It was used for pumping water, or did they grind? It doesn't look large enough to grind grain, does it?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what it was used for. It clearly at one time was functional,
Yeah.
but I don't know whether it was to raise water or whether it was used to grind grain.
Should I stop sharing?
Well, if we want to end the meeting eventually.
Yes.
But anyway, very interesting project that's out there. So
Go have a look. Thank you all. I'm out of battery. I'm about to die.
okay.
I'm going to say goodnight.
So,
Right.
all right.
Good night, Martha.
Is there anything else before us? Otherwise, hearing nothing, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
All right. Thank
All
you,
right.
Ed.
And good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good night, Janet.
Good
Good
night.
night.
And thank you, Charles, if you're there.
You're welcome.